Okay, Tom Sykes of the Royalist. This is brilliant. The Sussex Survivors Club, so called, those people who have been, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm actually not being light about this because they have been into rehab, into psychiatric care, some of them as a result of the treatment by the fake Duchess. And they are speaking out again and directly to you, but it is specifically about because of the things that Meghan Markle keeps saying, the crazy things that Meghan Markle keeps saying. So I want to hear everything they're telling you, and we'll come to that in just one moment. But to explain, just this week, in a weird sort of astrology post, I think personally she does this to cosplay Princess Diana, who was very into astrology. And Simone Simmons, by the way, who has been in touch with me this week and was very keen to point out she wasn't Diana's astrologer, she was her psychic and her best friend. But, she had that very clear link to Diana. And I think Meghan is now leaning in to this new astrologer. And she posted this week, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius ending the hardest 7 years of their lives on April 25th. The tension between who you actually are and what the world around you was willing to see has been exhausting in a way that is hard to explain to people who have not lived it. Your confidence took hits it had no business taking. You questioned your creative direction, your spotlight, your worth. April 25th, the pressure lifts. You get the space to just exist without fighting for its spirit daughter. And this astrologer in question, Christina Antuna, very Meghan Markle-like. She describes herself as your ride or die astrologer, Las Vegas-based. And what was interesting is she even made a little dig at Prince Harry here, saying that it was whether it was your job, a spouse, or even your faith, which saw you, as in Meghan, be tested and flipped upside down over and over these last 7 years. She also is in the camp of the fact that Meghan should be royal again, because that's what Meghan seems to want. Celebrating the fact the post had been shared by Meghan, Ms. Antuna wrote herself, the Queen, talking about Meghan, not Camilla here, the Queen herself has been public proof of this transit. Here's to reigning again. And Queen was even with an uppercase Q. I think they're feeling pretty angry. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Hillary is one of the best royal sketch writers working today. She's got a huge fan base and she is a brilliant and hilarious and very funny writer. And she has the knack of pricking the bubble at exactly the right moment. And of course, when astrologers come up, I think Calvin Mackenzie at The Sun back in the old days, whenever he was going to fire the astrologer for The Sun, always used to preface it by saying, now, I'm sure you know what's coming, but yeah, I mean,
So you're
wow,
not
the
a
seven
believer,
hardest
Tom?
years. I mean, well, I mean, look, I mean, just by virtue of the fact that she's talking about 4 star signs, that's a quarter of the planet, isn't it? So anyway, I don't know. Look, what of course is interesting about this is the way that Meghan has basically taken this, out of context, weaponized it, put it on her site. And the idea that Meghan has had the hardest 7 years of her life is incredibly offensive, as you say, to people who have been left genuinely traumatized by working for her. And the problem is, right, is that and when journalists we pick up the phone and we speak to former staff who've worked with her and they tell us horrendous stories of how she's a demon boss, or she's the psycho, or she's the dictator in high heels, or she screamed at them and belittled them and undermined them. As the Sussexes will always say, this is completely made up. You are not naming, this is what they were saying to me, you're not naming the sources. It's all rubbish. But unfortunately for them, Jason Knauf is on the record as having said this in a black and white email sent to his boss, Simon Case. She always seems to have someone in her sights. She's completely undermined the, confidence of X and Y. She's bullied 2 people out of their jobs. So it is a matter of record that she is a bullying boss, and that is just the end of it. And the idea that she's had the worst 7 years of her life. Yeah, I mean, as Hillary Rose says, God, I wish I'd had 7 years that were that bad with only $100 million Netflix contract.
Tom, is it true that one of these former staff members described Meghan as a workplace psychopath? And if so, what did they mean?
So they were specifically speaking to me about this new clip that emerged from the tour in Australia, where Sarah Fosmo, Meghan's head of staff, a pretty tough cookie, has worked for the Gates Foundation, not by any means a place that traditionally shadowing snowflakes go and work at. Sarah's a pretty tough cookie. She goes and taps on Harry's shoulder to point him to some people who are up on the balcony, and gives her the most unbelievable death stare you've ever seen in your life. And people saying, you just said, that's absolutely classic Meghan, this kind of, this kind of one face for the public and then another face, yeah, there it is. I mean, incredible.
And it's actually terrifying. I mean, it is terrifying.
It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, it's just the most awful look. And of course, what's really interesting is, well, why was she so annoyed about it? And what people told me was because it's that she is so obsessed with continuing the branding of them being a royal couple. And of course, what is the thing that you're not supposed to do to royalty? You're not supposed to touch them without an invitation, because they are special, they are revered, they are this, they are that, they are the other. And funny enough, in the state visit this week, there's already been, some criticism, confected criticism, I hasten to add, of Donald Trump tapping Charles on the shoulder as he led him into the White House.
What happens when the dream life you've worked so hard to build suddenly comes under intense scrutiny? For Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, that's the question dominating headlines after fresh claims emerged about their Montecito lifestyle and the future of their lavish California estate. And if the reports are to be believed, critics are having a field day. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex once appeared to have everything. A stunning mansion in one of America's most exclusive neighborhoods. Multi-million-dollar media deals. Global recognition. And the freedom to build a life on their own terms. But now, commentators are asking a very different question. Has the California dream started to crack? The latest controversy centers around reports suggesting that renovation plans and property improvements may not be moving forward as expected. Almost immediately, speculation exploded online. Some critics claimed the Sussexes could be facing financial pressure. Others suggested the reports were being exaggerated by those eager to portray the couple in a negative light. As always, the truth may be far more complicated. Maintaining a luxury estate is expensive. Even for wealthy celebrities. Property taxes, security costs, maintenance, landscaping, staffing, and renovations can quickly add up. And when your every move attracts media attention, even routine decisions can become major headlines. That's exactly what appears to be happening here. Supporters of Harry and Meghan argue that stories about financial struggles are often based on assumptions rather than evidence. After all, neither Harry nor Meghan has publicly stated that they are experiencing money problems. The couple continues to pursue business ventures, charitable projects, and media opportunities. Yet the rumors refuse to disappear. Why? Because public perception has become one of the biggest challenges facing the Sussexes. Since leaving royal duties in 2020, Harry and Meghan have remained among the most talked about public figures in the world. Every interview sparks debate.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. But the problem, Tom, that Meghan has is that she has a long track record of doing this in public. I mean, I always remember the walkabout after the death of the late Queen Elizabeth II, where she rudely thrust some flowers into the hand of an aide. And it's like, if you are behaving like this when you know that you are being broadcast around the world, literally on live television. I mean, okay, maybe the hospital visit wasn't live around the world. It was live on the Australian broadcast networks, and she still can't help herself. Just imagine how she acts behind the scenes. And of course, look, we both know, because we have spoken to members of the Sussex Survivors Club over the years, that it is truly horrible behind the scenes, that she does drive people to tears regularly behind the scenes. So I don't know, the problem she's got, Tom, this attempt to constantly make herself the victim is going to keep encouraging people that she has treated terribly and made victims by her bullying behavior. It's going to keep encouraging them to speak. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. Like, wouldn't it be so much better, Tom, if Meghan actually just owned who she was? A bit like the Kardashians do, a bit like Martha Stewart does. You know, she's not some cuddly earth mother. And the problem is, she keeps talking about authenticity, and there's nothing authentic about how she wants the world to view her and how she really acts.
Okay, so two things there. You've got to remind me, because I don't want to forget the two things I'm going to say. But and I get on to, you know, her true character in a minute. But the first point that you made, that it's effectively misbehavior, workplace bullying is by its nature something that happens behind closed doors and is secret, right? It's protected by NDAs, by power, by social convention, by fear that you won't get another job if you're, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So when you see it in public, even though you only see a trace of it, it's a very good sign that more of it is happening behind closed doors. I was very reminded of what David Sherborne said in court about unlawful information gathering. David Sherborne made the point that unlawful information gathering is, by its nature, unlawful and covert. So if you can find a small example of it, that should be taken seriously as an indication that there is more of it. Well, you can apply exactly the same rationale to workplace bullying. On the second point that you made, Dan, about, you know, I think that's a really interesting idea about how the Kardashians have been incredibly authentic to their true selves. And I think if Meghan actually lent in to being a bit of a B1TCH and lent in to an amazing reality show of her screaming at her aides, "Get me a bloody project that works, you idiots!" And, you know, it would be an amazing show and we'd all love it. And I think that actually people would respect her a lot more, rather than this trying to pretend that she's a really, really, really lovely, nice person, when it's a matter of public record that she is not.
Well, and it's everyone from all phases of life. I mean, that's the thing, Tom. I remember speaking to one of Meghan Markle's early film directors. Now, this is before she met Harry and when she was still in Suits. And they said she was the worst actress she'd ever worked with. Gave me a whole litany of reasons as to why. So this is something that was present in her Hollywood career, that was present in her time in the royal family, and that is now present when she's out of it. So that's the problem. The other problem, of course, Tom, is that, and Dan Wakeford does point this out in his written piece, the financial clock is ticking. So he says, look, that it's not like they're going to be bankrupt tomorrow, but there's basically about 5 years worth of reserves before they have to seriously change their lifestyle. And he says that the inheritance money from Princess Diana has pretty much run out. Now, of course, there was a further inheritance from the Queen Mother, which Harry received when he was 40. But given their outgoings, even that isn't really going to touch the sides for all that long.
I tell you, Dan, financially, the couple are a laughingstock in Montecito. They right, a really good example of how financially challenged they are. It's almost unheard of to buy a house in Montecito and just move into it, right? You buy a house and you do like a $7 million remodeling job, right? To make it all up to date. You don't take the sort of, you know, we've seen the insides of the house. Yeah. It's hideous. It's absolutely hideous because it was lived in by some kind of, you know, Russian billionaire. It was probably last updated 15, 20 years ago. I mean, they are so broke. I mean, maybe they can eke out 5 years in California. I mean, I think that's being generous and being friendly. And the problem is that if they're spending the capital, as anybody knows, the last thing you can do is you can spend your capital. All that capital needs to be invested, generating a little bit of income. But, you know, the reality is, yeah, financially, they're a joke out there. I mean, they are the poorest rich guys in the room, you know.
Yeah, it's so bad, isn't it? They didn't need to spend all the money on this particular house. And finally, Tom, historic and again, I know this isn't new, but it is worth noting, historic in terms of Prince Harry. I mean, no royal of the modern era has dropped from being at one point more popular than Queen Elizabeth II. A lot of people forget that, but there were literally polls where his approval rating was higher than his grandmother to just 30% approval.
Absolutely disastrous numbers. What I will say is that I think that we have all had friends who've married somebody that we dislike or don't get along with, or has made life very difficult for the rest of our family. And when that marriage has come to an end, we've been keen to put our arm around that person and welcome them back into the fold. I think that Harry has made a lot of terrible, terrible mistakes. I think his behavior to the king this week was cruel, and I'm not a fan of it, of the way he has conducted himself over the past few years. But I do think that there is a potential that he could make a case that he has been somewhat led astray. And I wouldn't rule out rehabilitation for Prince Harry in the long run if changes came about in his personal situation.
Oh my God, it's a mountain to climb. It is a mountain to climb.
Every appearance generates headlines, and every report creates a new wave of speculation. Some observers believe the couple is thriving despite criticism. Others argue that their popularity has declined since their dramatic departure from royal life. The Montecito story has now become the latest battleground in that ongoing debate. Royal commentators have pointed to changing media deals, shifting public interest, and growing competition in the entertainment industry. Critics claim these factors may be creating new pressures. Supporters counter that the couple remains financially secure and continues to attract global attention. What often gets lost in these discussions is the fact that very little concrete information is publicly available. Many of the strongest claims originate from unnamed sources, commentators, or online speculation. That hasn't stopped the story from spreading. And perhaps that's because this controversy touches on something bigger than house renovations. It reflects the ongoing fascination with Harry and Meghan's post-royal life. When they stepped away from the monarchy, many predicted unlimited success. Others predicted failure. Years later, the world is still debating which side was right. Every new headline becomes another chapter in that larger story. The mansion itself has become a symbol. To supporters, it represents independence and a fresh start. To critics, it represents expectations that may be difficult to maintain. And so, a simple discussion about renovations has evolved into a much larger conversation about wealth, status, and public image. For now, there is no official confirmation supporting the most dramatic claims being circulated online. What exists instead is speculation, commentary, and endless public interest. One thing is certain. Harry and Meghan remain headline makers unlike almost anyone else. Whether praised or criticized, they continue to dominate conversations around the world. The real question is this: are these latest reports evidence of genuine problems? Or are they simply another example of how every aspect of the Sussexes' lives becomes a global talking point? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more royal news and analysis.